Chapter A, third and final section, notes. So we're going to do compound inequalities. And compound, the word compound means more than one. So hopefully you can see, oops, might help if I had the right drawing utensil. So hopefully you can see that in these three boxes right here, compound, there's two of them. There's two little inequality answers. So let's start off with, you don't have problems to solve. We've already kind of given you the answers. And we're saying, hey, one of the answers, the numbers are smaller than 9, but also, and the answers can be bigger than 5 as well. So for an and problem, well, let me drop down here where these two lines are first. Let me go ahead and fill these in. So for an and problem, that means we're going to shade where the two graphs overlap. Okay, we'll get back to that in a second, what it is you're doing exactly. And for the or graphs, we're just going to shade them both. Now, I know that sounds kind of weird. Like, well, wait a minute, both, doesn't that kind of mean and? But for or, what we're saying is one answer counts or the other answer counts. And if they both count, then you have to graph both of them. So I hope that makes some sense. All right, up here, here's what I like to call the above and below method. And I'll tell you what, if you think you can figure out what the answer to this would be without doing this, fine, but I don't recommend it. So let's just go ahead and try this. And I'm just going to do it every time, no matter what. So x is less than 9. Okay, well, we learned already that a less than symbol without an equal to means an open circle. So I'm going to shade one up above the number line. I'm not going to put it on it yet. And less than would mean that I would be shading to the left. All right, let's go two colors. So the other guy, x is greater than 5, would also be an open circle. I'm going to do him down below. Greater than would mean shade to the right. So the question would be, where do those two lines overlap? Well, from 5 on down, trying to find a different color here. What do you think? Let's go with that one. So from 5 on down, you only have this guy. So I don't have both lines there. From 9 on up, I only have this guy. So I don't have both lines. But in between the 5 and the 9, I got this guy and I got this guy. So that's where both overlap. So I'm going to transfer the open circles down because there was an open circle for 9 and there was an open circle for 5. And I'm going to shade right there because that's where they overlap. So that's how we do an and. Okay, now let's try an or. So for an or, keep in mind, you got to put the numbers in the right order. So I got a negative 11, I got a negative 1. Negative 11 is smaller than negative 1. All right, so let's graph them. Well, this guy, closed circle, him up above, greater than means shade this way. Well, for this guy, I've got an open circle, and less than, shade that away. So if you were doing an and, I think this would make sense. They don't overlap anywhere, and so we wouldn't shade. It'd be like a no solution answer. But we're doing an or, and so for an or, here's what you have to do. You have to say to yourself, okay, an or means one or the other. So this is one answer. It counts. So I'm going to use him. I'm going to keep him. And this guy's one answer as well. Well, he counts. So I'm going to use him. I'm going to keep him. So really, it's like transferring both your graphs right onto the in-between graph. So now keep in mind, the above and below things to help you get the answer, the shade that's in the middle is the answer. All right, so let's try this last one here. So I got a negative 6. I got a 0. Again, make sure you're putting them in the right order. That guy, closed circle, shade to the left. Second guy also has the equal to sign, closed circle, also less than, shade to the left. See, now there's where these can get a little bit tricky, but I think if you just keep this in mind, all we're doing is transferring them down, so we're counting them both. So if I were to go ahead and graph this guy, I'm going to count him, I'm going to use him. But then also, I'm going to transfer this guy down. He counts, I'm going to use him too. And coincidentally, it goes right over top of the previous one. But the key is it gets shaded all the way from the 0 down to the negative 6. So that's the best way to do ORs, is just to transfer those two right onto the graph. And for the ands, I think for whatever reason, people tend to get those, they understand those a little bit better. It's just where the two graphs overlap. All right, so let's do a couple problems here. All right, if the word and is there in the problem, it's obviously an and. If the word or is there in the problem, it's obviously an or. If it's not there, like the first two problems, it's understood to be an and. You would almost have to say the word and if you read this problem. So if I read it, number one, -1 is less than 2x plus 15 and, right, less than 21. So it's just understood to be an and. And here's how you solve it. You split it up and you say, well, here's one inequality. And I'm going to use an and symbol. That 2x plus 15 is also less than 21. So that middle part becomes both statements. In the ends of the problem, if you think about it, are -1 and 21. So you solve them like normal, guys. A plus 15, how do we get rid of it? We subtract 15. Again, I'm going to leave the work off. You can put that minus 15 there if you want. So if I divide by 2, I got that guy. Now, if you watch the previous section videos, we said, hey, it's a good idea to always have the variable on the left side. So I'm going to flip him around, and there's one of my answers. Well, the other one, solve it the same way. I got to subtract 15. I got to divide by 2. And there's my other answer. So the graph, I mean, technically it's optional. I'm going to make you do it on a quiz anyway. But it really helps get the answer. So open circle for this guy, greater than, shade to the right. Open circle for this guy, less than, shade to the left. And keep in mind, we're doing an and. And an and problem is where do they overlap? So I think it's pretty obvious if you do this above and below thing that the answer, or where the lines overlap, is between -8 and 3. So we're going to go with interval notation for the solution set answer. If you look at my online notes, they currently have a different form, and the other form is acceptable as well. So if it makes more sense to you, if you look at those notes, you're welcome to do that. But we're going to go with interval notation, which is to say this. Just tell me where the shade is. Well, the shade starts at -8, and it ends at +3. So it's almost like writing coordinates. So if you watch the previous videos, we put parentheses with open circles, and we put brackets with closed circles. All right. So number 2, same concept. It's got 2 sections or 2 inequality signs in it. So I know that one of them, so it's basically like covering up one of the inequalities. So if you covered up the less than or equal to 2, that's what it would read. And then if you covered up the 0, this is what you would read. But again, these are understood to be ands. So solve like normal. I'm going to add 3. How do you get rid of a 1/2? Well, you could divide by a half, but if you keep in mind that a fraction part means divide, that'd be the same as multiplying by 2. So I can multiply both sides by 2, and I got it. I'm going to flip this guy around. I'm telling you, you're never going to miss the shading part if you flip that guy around. So the good news is, even though there's more work, the other problem gets solved the same way. We started off by adding 3 on the last one, so guess what? We add 3 on this one. And the last one, we multiplied by 2, so guess what? We multiplied by 2 on this one. So there's my 2 answers. So I got a 6 and a 10. Let's make sure, again, you're putting these in the right order. So negatives are a little tricky. You can get those backwards. All right, here we go. One above, closed circle, greater than, shade to the right. This guy, also closed circle, shade to the left. And where do they overlap? So for ands, we see where they overlap, which in this case is in the middle. And interval notation would be to say it starts at 6, bracket because of the closed circle. The shade ends at 10, bracket because of the closed circle. All right, that's going to bring us to the end of part 1 video. Hey, there's a bunch of notes in this section, so if you need some help on the absolute value stuff, the word problem stuff, tune in for some of these other videos. Thanks for watching.